Okay, so now we're going to do 6-2 properties of parallelograms, part 1. The key terms of parallelograms are quadrilateral, with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So the shape to your right is a parallelogram. Quadrilateral because there's 4 sides, and the opposite sides are parallel. So that's telling you that AB is parallel to DC and BC is parallel to AD. The opposite sides do not share a vertex. So opposite sides would be, hang on. So AB and CD. So if we're looking here, remember a vertex is an angle. So AB has the angles of A and B, and then CD has the angles of C and D. They don't share a common vertex. So they don't share, neither one of them have the same angles. Opposite angles do not share a side. So opposite angle A, and angle C. Angle A has side BA and AD, and angle C has side BC and CD. So it doesn't use the same, it doesn't have a common side to it. Okay, parallelogram theorems. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. So opposite sides. So this AB is congruent to CD and BC is congruent to AD. The next thing, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the consecutive angles are supplementary. So consecutive means A and B consecutive are next to each other. So that's telling me that A plus B equals 180. And those are angles. So angle A and B add up to give me 180. But then also angle A and D give me 180. And D and C give me 180. And C and B give me 180. And if it's a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. So that's telling me that angle A is congruent to angle C. Angle B is congruent to angle D. Opposite on opposite sides. Okay, so using that information, let's go ahead and look at example set 1, find the missing value, justify your answer. So we'll leave those 3 theorems up so we can see those while we're talking about here. So find the missing value, justify your answer. So we're going to talk about which one of these are we going to use to solve this. So I want to know what x equals, right? So the opposite sides, I'm not looking at sides, I'm looking at angles. So here we have consecutive angles or opposite angles. I don't have an opposite. The opposite angle will be here. So I have to use the consecutive. So I'm going to use the theorem 2. And theorem 2 tells me that if it's parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. So these two are consecutive, so it's telling me that x plus 60 equals 180. And so if I subtract 60, I end up with x equals 120. Okay, so here, again, I'm not talking about the sides, and I'm not talking about opposite angles, I'm talking about consecutive. So I'm using angle number 2 again. And so 115 plus x equals 180. Subtract 115, and x equals 65 degrees. Same thing here, these are consecutive, so x plus 47 equals 180. Subtract 47, and x equals 133. degrees. And then here, again, I'm still talking about angles. They're not opposite, they're consecutive. So 85 plus x equals 180. Subtract 85. And x equals 95. So all of these we're using number 2, consecutive angles. Here we're talking about on the missing value. So you have to know which theorem you want to use. Are they congruent or are they consecutive? Which these are supplementary. Okay, so the first one we're talking about sides. And so what do we know about sides? Opposite sides are congruent. So I'm going to go ahead and use these two. And if they're congruent, then that means that they equal each other. And so I'm going to have b plus 14.5 equals 20.5. So I'm subtracting 14.5. And b equals 6. So if I know b equals 6, then I can go ahead and solve this one. Because then if I can solve for b, then I can just plug it in. So I end up with 3 times 6 minus 6.3. So 3 times 6 is 18 minus 6.3 is 11.7. Okay, here, oh, we have to go back because here, obviously we know this is going to be 20.5 because they equal each other. So you solve for b and then you want to find this side as well. Okay, so here we have consecutive. So consecutive means you add them to make equal 180. So I'm going to have 8s plus 5 equals 3, not equals. Let me erase this too. Okay, so 8s plus 5 plus 3s plus 10 equals 180. And so I end up with 11s plus 15 equals 180. Subtract 15. I end up with 11s equals 165. Divide both sides by 11. And you end up with s equals 15. So s equals 15. If you wanted to go back in, you could go ahead and plug it in and figure out. So let's go ahead and plug this in. 8 times 15. I don't know. Oh, wrong thing. 15 times 8 equals plus 5 equals 125. Is that right? Yes. So this is 125 degrees. And that's equal 180. Then 180 minus 125 is 55 degrees. Okay, and the last one for this section, these are opposite, and the theorem says that opposite angles are congruent. So I'm going to have 3a minus 5 equals 40. Add 5 to both sides. You get 3a equals 45. Divide both sides by 3, and a equals 15. And we already know that this angle is going to equal 40 because if this one is 40, they're congruent, then this angle also equals 40. Okay, and the last two, same concept. They're opposites, they equal. So 3a equals 114. And so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And 114 divided by 3 equals 38. So a equals 38. And then here again they're opposites, so 11a equals 110. Divide both sides by 11. And a equals 10. I knew. So, okay. So your work, this was yesterday's work. If you were confused, you didn't know how to do it because I didn't have the notes for you, then go ahead and continue to work on this and turn it in tomorrow. And then here's 8A, A8, and this is from today's. They're both due tomorrow, Friday. Your grades will be posted next week at some point. Some grades have been plugged in, and more of them will be plugged in tomorrow and Friday. So probably on Monday you'll have grades posted for you. If you have any questions, remember you can email me at craftma@tulsaschools.org. If you have a question, you don't know how to do something, if you missed something, if you're confused, go ahead and email me, and I'm pretty good at emailing back within the day or two. All right, go ahead and do your work. Make sure you show work for credit.